the chit this time is a Russian offensive. They get 2 operations out of it. The big debate for me is go into East Prussia, steal something from the Germans, try to collapse them, whatever. Or hit Italy. Now the advantage to hitting Italy is they're kind of weak right now. So I think that's what I'm going to actually go for. I'm not going to spend an extra pip though. Send 2 units, 2 air units in. And what do we get here? We get 2 dice plus air support for the Russians, 2 dice for the Italians, and that's all she wrote, really. +1 for the Italians. Ooh, maybe we did want to spend the extra. But we'll take our chances. Okay, so the Italians got a 7, Russians got a 4. Russians will take that as a retreat and fall back into Romania. Given that we didn't succeed there, we're going to roll our tanks into East Prussia against the Germans. Let's roll some air support in. I guess we'll throw both units, it doesn't really matter. That's 3 dice because of air support. Germans only get 1 die because of the tanks. That's 2 to 1, that succeeds massively. We want the air unit there in Poland. We're going to shift an armor into Poland. We'll keep the other one in the Baltic states because losing East Prussia won't matter too much. Germany loses a victory point and Russia gains 1. We can see it's very close in terms of victory points, but the Axis is on their way out the door right now. Russia gets a flag for that. Which we'll take, might mean a declaration of war, might mean a mobilization action. And Germany only has 2 dice, has to make a stability check, which they fail. And they're heading back down into the toilet. The Brits haven't been wanting to go. They still don't want to. I don't remember. They're holding it for a possible improvement after their guns. Home front check. All right. Home front check for the Brits is 3 dice. We're at -1 because we're in mobilization. And that's not successful. Brits fall. They're going to trump in at this point. They can't trump in at this point. How do the Russians feel? We're not really that advantaged over the French right now. If the French start committing towards Italy, we've got more reason to do things. We're going to pass on our option to draw to do something. The French get another air force. Drop that here into Paris. Japanese flag, geez, I don't know what to do with that. I gotta think. Thought was whether there's an operation worth doing because they have stability down. They're gonna make the stability improvement propaganda. Get that there. Still not interested in doing anything anywhere. An Italian flag. Italy also could use a stability improvement, and they do not particularly want an operation. They are successful. The chit cup's getting low. Italian bomber improvement. We have no Italian planes left, so that is wasted. A Japanese offensive. This one is going to require thought as well. They're in total war, so they're going to get 3 pips to use. The many special rules for the game. I can't pick off the American submarine here to get a triumph, which makes perfect sense. I had to go look that up though because I had no idea. The way it's worded though is the defending force had to have at least 1 fleet in the area for a triumph to be possible, which is an easy way of wording it to prevent the air forces or the subs from being affected, as opposed to if they had just said air forces don't count or something like that. I still don't know what to do. Again, I'm horrible with naval. An operation is a chance to do something cool. I'm not going to get much out of it, although, you know, I could get lucky and maybe blast the Carolines into submission. I'm not going to be able to blast the Philippines to any significant extent. And I'm really having a tough time figuring out what, if anything, I really want to do. I have strategic bombers here in the East China Sea, which could actually reach the Marianas. But the Marianas aren't going to give me victory points. They could reach the Western Carolines. But I'm not going to be able to get very far with that. This is just really... All right. The alternative is I could schwack into China and try to gain something there. I just feel like I'm handcuffed. And that's so often the case. But with the naval actions, I feel paralyzed by the idea of I have no idea what to do. An offensive is clearly a time to take advantage of, though. I mean, at least with these, I get a cube, possible triumph. But over here, if I get a triumph, I affect U.S. stability. And a +2 going into there might not be too bad. All right, let's do that. Let's do a +2 going into there. Now, the U.S. could intervene here, except they're full up. So, we'll just dice it out. Japanese air power, U.S. air power. Japanese are at +2. And they take a 2-to-1 hit. We'll take 1 hit off and flee back. We are able to go all the way back. That means the U.S. now has air superiority, which means the Japanese lose a die, but they're at +2 again. And this could go terribly wrong. 5 to 6, the Japanese take 1 hit. They'll take the retreat, and we've expended an offensive for no good effect whatsoever. But, you know, the odds were in our favor on it. So, it's the 4th crisis. Let's see what the cup says. Cup says there are 3 U.S. and the U.S. is still in civilian. So we're pretty sure we know that the war continues. Stability check. They only get 2 dice. They are at mobilization, so they're at -1, which sends them down. They'd like to trigger right away, but they can't. What are the Brits holding their political action for? They've got their marker in here. I don't know. But I get a Japanese flag. What to do with the Japanese flag? We had this question before, and the answer is still the same. It's propaganda. We're at +1 now. Still no good. The Brits are going to jump in now, I think. We're going to try to mobilize. It is automatic. We go up to total war. And that's going to get us a bunch of stuff. It is going to piss off Germany. I'll put the German flag there. They probably have something they want to do right away. Brits upgrade their ground forces. They don't have a very large ground army. They're Britain after all. They think they and France are going to need it for the showdown, either with Italy and or with the Russians. And they grabbed a carrier improvement. Mainly, we can't build more navies at this point. My other thought was possibly submarines, but you know, Italy's got a navy, and we can commit forces to Japan, perhaps. We'll see. I don't know if we're going to ally with the U.S. They seem to be doing something of value, and we're ahead in victory points right now, so that's pretty cool. Maybe we wanted to do the stability increase, I don't know, but I feel like we need these extra forces right now. That means the Russians will use their flag. Germans have first choice. Germans will use their flag to do propaganda. I guess. I don't know. No. They want to pressure someone. Who do they want to pressure? They will pressure... They will pressure Japan. Because we've got the bonus already in pressure. Let's not screw with propaganda. And we get a 5, which is sufficient. So Japan gets a flag, which they will put in their bank. And that means Britain can go again with an offensive. What would a British offensive be like? Well, unfortunately, we don't have too much. We're at total war, so we get 3 pips. We could invade Sicily, but it's harder now. There are no British armies here that can help us. We could do a strategic redeployment. Germany's navy is not a problem anymore, but we don't want to do that right away. Yeah, I think we're going to do the invasion at +1. Send this in, send air support in. That means we get the extra die for air support. And both sides are at +1. Well, the Italians win the battle again. So we fall back into Libya. Oh well. Japan flag. Japan will keep doing propaganda. Maybe not what Germany intended, but I don't know. At +2 now. That's good enough to get our stability back up. So the stability actions, this whole thing gives a political viewpoint that, you know, with the collapse, the surrender, that I can see as kind of, you know, reminiscent of the ideas that stand behind things like La Grande Guerre. Balance of Power has a weaker version of it, I think. What this does is does a much, much simpler design for it. Goes into less details. Probably appropriate this level of abstraction for the game. But it also gives the players a lot more input into it. In La Grande Guerre, you're kind of like, well, I'm on a losing offensive, and if I call it off, I'm screwed, and if I continue it and fail, I'm screwed. But maybe, maybe not. You know, essentially something like possibly falling into the collapse box type situation. It's got a lot more detail in terms of what it represents in it. In this, you've got, you know, this capacity to keep rescuing your country, which honestly is probably more apropos for World War II. You didn't see, other than say the French and Italian collapses, you didn't see as much trouble with the idea of this total war type situation. It was a new thing in World War I, and honestly the societies weren't configured to be able to handle it. That British offensive got spent. Let's not do it again. That means Russia has a shot to do something. We could declare war, but again, there's a lot of French still in the area. We don't really get anything great off of it. Let's do our stability improvement. I think there's no harm in doing that. And that is successful. No. Maybe it isn't. We have a -1, but I actually get an extra die. Forgot I get 3 dice because of Russia. Okay, so instead we get a cube. Yay. And we're back to the chit cup. We get another British offensive. Well, it was such a good idea last time. Let's just keep banging our head against Sicily. 3 dice to 2, both at +1. The fact that we're both at +1 means that a triumph is less likely than, say, if we were both at 0 or -1. And we have a draw, which means the Italians lose the territory. The Brits get a cube in Sicily. Italy loses a victory point. Britain gains 1. Fascists go down 1. Democracies go up 1. And Italy has to make a check. Only 1. There was no triumph there, but it does open up Rome, which is, of course, the capital. You can tell it's the capital because it's written in capital letters. And Italy has a failure. Falling down to wavering. Draw another chit. We're definitely getting down towards the end of another Russian propaganda. At +1, -1. This time they succeed. Their stability goes up. A lot of action, though, to maintain that. That's the difference also in La Grande Guerre. You just watch it decrease for the most part, except when you occasionally get a military equivalent of a triumph here or a conquest. Outside of that, though, you don't have a lot of chances to do things. Here, you're constantly fiddling about trying to keep your stability up. There, you can make big decisions at the beginning of the turn, but that's about it. A British flag, you know, this time the Brits are going to try to boost their own stability. -2 for total war? No. This is not a home front test. So we push up as well. A US offensive. Damned if I know. They only get 1 attack out of it. Big choices are to fight for the East China Sea, which with this logistics unit is really going to be tough to take. An invasion of Japan would be at long range if we got around to that. We're not set up for it yet. It would be nice, like probably worth doing. We have to take that base first. And we have to get patrols in the sea. Do a base capture there. They won't be able to react as well. Yeah, let's do a base capture there. Start setting ourselves up for the invasion. 1, 2. There's our support. Japanese support comes in as well, though. This is just at even odds. So, air attack. We get 2-1 on the Japanese plane, which means it is actually forced to be eliminated. And now we have air support, so we get an extra die. Both sides have carriers, so there's no effect. You don't remove the dice. You have to have the advantage. And there, the Japanese win. So the U.S. can withdraw. We'll keep the plane there because it gives us a little bit more defensive option. The carrier fleet can't base there. Another chit. Almost nothing left. Another British offensive. Well, oh, you know what? We wanted the British plane to stay there during that offensive. Because now we're going to attack into Rome. Using the crossing arrow, we throw a plane in. The boats don't really affect anything. We're at total war. Well, this only takes one chit to get into the game, and a second chit would get us a +1, which I think is worthwhile. But we're going to keep the potential for an attack going up further. They have no support capabilities. If we take Lombardy, we knock Italy out of the game. Which may not be a great thing, because I think that neutralizes all this stuff. But whatever. So the U.S. has, or the Brits have air support. The Italians just get 1 die. Their die, oh, I was gonna, yeah, I threw 2 in. Both sides are at +1. It's augmented once. That's 7-2. It's a success for the Brits. They get 2 cubes in Rome. The fleet is going to have to run away. That drops Italian victory. We're back. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4. Yeah, they're good. Fascists go down by 2. Brits go up by 2. Democracy gets their +10 marker on board. And it's time for Italian stability tests. They have to make 2. 1 for each cube. First one fails. Second one fails. Italy hits collapse. Well, maybe they surrender early. Italian surrender. Well, let me find the rule for that. This is one of those, gotta paw through the book and find the page that I want. Just use the player aid, which is why it exists, right? Oh, that's the surrender. When a power surrender threshold. +1 for each neutral, opposing, or enemy cube in its home areas or colony containing a resource. So that's +3. Its victory point cumulative total is 0, so +4. Its commitment is not exhaustion, which means on a 4 or less, they're screwed. And they only make 1 surrender check, which they are screwed. So they surrender. It is eliminated from the game. Each enemy power gains a flag. That would be France, Britain, and Russia. Let's get their flags on the board. All of them want to be there. Russia will get the first chance, though, because this was an allied action. Okay. Allies with land units in their areas may gain control of those areas of bases. This is the, I don't remember what it is, what, Operation Constantine or whatever. The, I think that's what it is. I don't remember the name. Where the Germans seized Italy after its surrender. Powers allies must conduct stability tests. There are no powers allies. Remove the powers counters and cubes from the game, including base markers and counters in the action point. Victory marker stays on the victory point chart. Now, what it doesn't say there is whether we're still worth 0 or if we lose these, and I'm going to have to look that up. Place neutral cubes in each of their home or colony areas not controlled by another power. So these go away. We'll think about Provence in a minute. But I'm going to keep these aside because that's 4 victory points that the Axis had. Areas are now uncontrolled countries. So this is the one use for these neutral counters, which also are not too far from the Italian and British color, just to make life more difficult. Place unowned base markers on each of their printed bases not owned by another player. Okay, so Rhodes and Sardinia become unowned and can be invaded. Units that can no longer legally occupy an affected area must immediately retreat. And that's not a problem. Flip surrendered power stability to surrender. Opposing ideology with the most cubes in home areas of surrendered power. Move surrender marker to its circle on the political display. I don't know what that means. But the alliance has conquered Italy. Now, we got to look at the victory point situation. Do the fascists get to keep those victory points? And what the hell it means that this marker's here. I know 2 surrenders cause the bar to end. We don't have 2 surrenders. So, I'm not sure. I'm left in a state of confusion still here. I looked under the surrender rules. They're basically the same as in there. And here's scoring. A power's victory total at any time is equal to the number of cubes in its areas on the map. Well, that would mean that this goes down by 4. And that would make sense. Power score may be negative, but it keeps saying this, it should retain the thing on the board. But I think they're penalized for these. I think these 4 come off the Axis. And off Italy in particular. 1, 2, 3. And fascism is now down to -1. I've got -7 to 5 here, which can't be right. That would sound like -2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Japan's correct. Is Italy correct? 1, 2, 3, 4. -4. They're correct. Germany is at -3. 1, 2, 3. Germany should be at -5. -4, -3. So they're correct. I think I didn't move the fascist counter in the right place. So we should be down to -2. I don't know if anybody else is screwed up. I'm not too worried about it. Yes, you know, the Allies are not far from Russia, but I don't think any decisions are going to be really based on this. The Axis has basically fallen. Yeah, Japan's still in the game, but there's not much they have to gain here. Now, they could come to an armistice with the U.S. If they do that right now, the game's over and the Axis is in last place. But if they do it after a war with Russia begins, they could be allowed to keep what they have. And that would allow the U.S. to stop fighting a naval war and to start intervening directly in Russia. Those Japanese cubes are going to be tough to dig out, probably tougher than it will be to get anything off of Russia. So it's an interesting concept. The problem with it is getting supply into Russia. I need to get the East China Sea to be able to get supply into Russia, or I'm not sure anything else will work. I mean, I could take like Korea or something, that would work too, but I still need the East China Sea to get through. So I don't see that as too likely right away, but it's a possible option. We still have an operation left for the Brits, though. A few options. I could do a redeploy, which might be very, very valuable. On the other hand, I could also, since it's late in the turn, try to grab that. Now I have to make a political success to do that, because that's now a neutral country. This, I believe, is returned to France. France should get a victory point for that. I don't think I saw a specification for that, but I'm not positive. Yeah, you only put the neutral cubes in their own home country, I believe. Well, let's check our surrender roll again. Yeah, you just remove the cubes, and you only put it in their home or colony areas not currently controlled by another power. That we're home countries are immediately... Oh, we have a diplomatic opportunity that I didn't see. Is that in here? Yeah, it is. They just don't give me the number. Okay, let's see what the diplomatic opportunity is. We may actually gain that without the operation. Okay, so only Britain is available to make these, because they're the only one occupying any of Italy. So they'll make an effectiveness check, and if they succeed, they gain control of that space, which would be another victory point. They do. So there's another British victory point, and most importantly, a supply source. And this is really looking like it's going to be a democratic victory by a large part, but we'll see whether the Soviets contest, well, how well the Soviets can contest that. So that means it's looking like a redeploy is definitely more interesting at this point as our final option. And the Brits place themselves into a strongly anti-Soviet position with fleets sailing into the Baltic here. It's threatening Leningrad itself. Russia's like, maybe we don't want to go to war right away. Forces up here just to prevent any kind of breakthrough in the Balkans from being a problem. Granted, we're less devoted to that, but we've got a lot of power waiting in Germany here. Now, and we're sending some stuff around South Africa to intervene against Japan if need be. What does this do? Under any reasonable circumstances, this would be time for Russia and the Allies to be discussing peace. But because this is a game, and the Russians feel like, you know, I think we do still have some kind of chance by going to war, maybe they are willing to try to push forward here. Optimally, chances are that, I mean, under any kind of reasonable circumstances, I think they would not be saying, yeah, let's take this to a war. But the thing is, we've seen little enough of the war already. So we'll keep pulling things. Russia gets a chit. What do we do with that chit? Well, we shit bricks. We could declare war. That would give us additional offensives. We could try to gear up. Another thing is, at this point, Japan could just say, you know what? And in fact, this is very likely. Before they play that shit, I am guessing that Japan would say, the Axis can't win this game. I don't think we can come in second. How about we have peace on this terms? Germany is divided, Italy conquered, but Japan gets to stay alive. In order to expedite things, I think the Japanese would actually agree to that, and that would essentially create the status quo situation. Realistically, though, hey, maybe the U.S. wants to wipe Japan off the map. I think we're going to call it here, though. I don't think we're going to learn too much more by pushing. I don't know. I want to keep playing. That's the thing, because I don't think I'm going to get back to this. So, fine. Japan will not make that armistice. Russia. Russian flag. Russia's going to try to mobilize. It is automatic because they're still belligerent against Germany. Interesting. Yeah, I can take the Italian cubes off there. Okay, so we boost up. Hold on. First, Italy disappears from the wars that they're in. Okay, so we get the automatic mobilization. We're going to get troops, etc., but we also get our bonus. Where does this go? In the Urals. Extra resources to build. And the biggie here is we're going to get 3 more offensives out of this, as well as new forces in the force pool. And the Soviets are going for a bunch of ground and air power there. Nothing else really. No more improvement markers. I thought about the air power improvement, but you know, it's cheaper to build new areas than to boost them up. I don't think strategic bombing is going to work against the Allies. And my wife and I are supposed to play something pretty soon, so I'll be back later to finish up. There ain't a whole lot left in that cup, but still could be some interest going on before we go further. Okay, so here I'm in the kind of strange malaise of the holiday. In this case, 4th of July, which is particularly annoying because, well, it's noisy, but more than that, it's not just the annoyance of the noise, but also the fact that brings to mind that, gosh, I should probably be out doing something. But I also know that I will suffer misery, and whatever expectations I might have are not going to come true. I'm not going to enjoy myself. On the other hand, I might evade some of this sadness that I have by not being there. Yeah. I'd instead have frustration and anger, or disappointment at least, with having tried to go someplace and tried to enjoy it, but knowing that I couldn't to begin with. So I did try on New Year's. And I tried last year on the 4th of July early. Couldn't get up the gumption to go for the actual fireworks. All right, so what do we got here? Well, the Russians just geared up. The Brits, I don't think they particularly want to use their flag yet. There are things they could do with it. In fact, they will. They're going to try to pressure the U.S. Gearing the U.S. up seems like a great goal. I wasn't going to do that, and I was thinking what I would do with the Japanese and German flags. We succeed, so the U.S. get a flag. Now, they can't fire that off right away, but that's okay. Japan doesn't particularly want to use its flag right now. Germany does. Germany will make a roll for propaganda don't have a good use for the Japanese flag. That's the problem. Germany succeeds. And we get them back up to wavering again. Now that gives the U.S. a chance. This is a problem for the Japanese because now the U.S. can mobilize, and that's automatic. That will not give any flags to anyone. Only Japan would get flags. They're already belligerent against the U.S. Washington Naval Treaty having been in play for so long, Japan didn't get to gear up its navy. But honestly, the game's too late for the U.S. to make any use out of an actual navy. So I built some more subs, some upgrades for my planes, and a couple more. That's a funny kind of plane. A couple more planes. I do not need a fortress, thank you. Be a bad buy anyway. I also get a fistful of chips. I'm going to put an offensive here, and the rest go in here. And now, wow, Japan is kind of like, geez, Germany, did you have to? Well, I could taunt Germany by giving the French a shot. That doesn't really matter to them. Japan really doesn't have a great use for a flag, but here's the thing. I don't know how much more game is left in the cup, you know. Yeah, Russia and the US have thrown a lot of chips in, but I've already gotten that. I'm probably not going to lose anything else. If I do this, though, it blows my propaganda, which probably has already been blown, since I'm at the top. So you know what? We're going to do this, and what are we going to do with it? I don't know. We're going to try to squirrel. I mean, there's nothing we can do, honestly. We're going to try to grab Siam. I mean, there's almost no reason for this because our victory points are so far to the negative, we can't win. We could declare war on Russia. That's a possibility. I wouldn't want to do that without U.S. support. But we might be able to come in second that way. Like if the U.S. gives us an armistice if we declare war on Russia, are they willing? They are. So yeah. So the Japanese say, hey, let's bring the Russians down further. We're going to try a declaration of war. I don't know how likely it is. It succeeds. So now Russia and Japan are at war. That there. That gives Russia a flag. Which they don't really need. I'll put it there. And yeah, we do need it if we wanted to go to war with the Western Allies. Now we're in an interesting position, right? And Japan is already belligerent, so I don't believe they get any additional offensives for going to war. Let me make sure. Now, I'm always mistaking that. That's mobilization offensives that you get at that point. Uh-oh. Going to war is something different. Okay, well, now I have to go take something. Which may not be trivial. But we'll go into Mongolia, I guess. And we got 2 dice. Russia gets 1 die. There's no bonus in offensives or anything here. And we win easily. We'll keep this here. We take a point from Russia. We gain a point for Japan. Japan's like, hey, I'm doing better than the Axis. As a whole. By a lot. And that's that. At this point, the U.S., who is just geared up for what is probably more of a naval war than anything else, it's like, do I keep my agreement with the Japanese or no? Odds they keep their agreement. Nah, they're gonna just keep plowing into Japan. Does that make sense? I don't know. All those submarines make no sense on their own. However, how easily are we going to take Japan out? Are we better off allowing them their dominance in China? I don't know. For the express purpose that I don't really understand naval rules very well, I'm going to keep plugging with the U.S. They're going to screw Japan over here. What is this going to do? Well, God, I don't know. So we want to get into there. Japan has the capacity to put another carrier in. That's not good. Let's go instead for the islands here. Okay. How many of our offensives do we want to spend on this? We will spend 2 of them, giving us a plus. We are now, no, we're only on mobilized. Yeah, we'll spend the 2 that we have. The 2 actions that we get off of offensives at this point. And we're going in. The Japanese get to throw 1 plane into here. If they had one adjacent, which they don't. So the US gets an extra marker for an extra plane. And Japan gets its carrier. And we're at +1 with the US. 7-5, the Japanese fall back to Tokyo. The base is captured. You might say, so what? That's not an unreasonable thing to say, but that puts me in a position where I'm not far from being able to do an invasion of Japan. Russia may be asking Japan for an armistice. The problem with that is, of course, that, I mean, Japan sure wouldn't mind. They're out of supply out here, and in fact, they were out of supply when they attacked. Did I roll dice? I hope so. But yeah, but and they're really not in a great position. I mean, if it wasn't for getting the U.S. off their back, they wouldn't have ever thought of this. On the other hand, Russia's really not built up for this. If Japan wants their 1 victory point for it, we'll give it to them. We need to bring the Allies down. Nope. That's not happening. I don't know what to do in that case. I don't know why it's not happening, but I don't know what to do. I think Russia is going to hold off on playing their shit because they don't want to start a war over here if there's a threat from Japan at this moment. The French could go up to total war. Sure. We are not at war with anyone, are we? We were at war with no one. This war is just gone. Yeah, we're non-belligerent, so we can't actually go to war because of the Italians being pulled out of that. Well, what do? We could try to go to total war. I don't know that that's terribly valuable. I know one thing we could do. We're going to try to do a maneuvers. We don't have any chips on the board. We're going to try to fortify Berlin. Yeah, not today. but who knows? Okay. Once again, the Russians get an option to do something they choose not to. We get another U.S. offensive, which gives them 2 pips. 2 pips is what we need for an invasion. Unfortunately, we don't have the sea route fully set up. It's also a hard invasion, but let me think. We're going to do an attritional attack instead. And we're going to use the +1 bonus from the pips. The Japanese, well, we can throw one of our carriers in and our 1 air unit in. We have an air battle. The U.S. is at only +1 for this. We don't really want to invade from here. That's a 2-space invasion. That's a penalty. I believe that's going to be a draw. Now the naval battle has Japanese air superiority, Japanese carrier superiority, but the U.S. is at +1. Well, a 6 is never very bad. So the Japanese take a hit on one of their carriers. They could withdraw, but then I'd lose this base. We don't want to do that. And the U.S. is forced back. And the U.S. gets another crack at it. Okay. Well, we'll wear them down. Do we want to keep all of this here? I think this is safe enough. I think we're okay with the carriers there. The carriers aren't very helpful in Japan, although actually we want to withdraw this one. So we can pull a second carrier in again. All right, we're gonna take another crack at it, which means we send the Air Force in, the Japanese send a second carrier, and their own Air Force in. This is again at +1 for the U.S. Seven to 5, the Japanese plane is defeated and has to fly back. That means the U.S. has air support, but carrier reduction, and they're at +1 because of the offensive tip. 6 to 5, we trim another Japanese carrier fleet down and have to fall back. And you know, we're winning the attritional war in a big way, and we're bound to win it the longer it goes, based just on production. All right. It's a crisis chit. This might be it. There are 3 Russians, but the Russians are at total war. There are 3 U.S., but they're at mobilization. I think that keeps us in it. That's something that is not on the chart that I find often having to look up. Unlike other things, mobilization or exhaustion is 3 or more counters. The U.S. keeps the war going for this turn. Draw 1. It's another U.S. offensive. Now Russia has to think about trumping in, because they know what's in the cup. They know that the turn will be over if the crisis comes up, so maybe we want to start things. Okay, the U.S. additional offensive will just keep doing that same thing, because it's a good thing. Okay. +1 on the plane attack. 4 to 2, that's 2 to 1. We're going to kill the Japanese plane this time. Now, Our carrier battle has air support, and the Japanese do not have carrier support. They're getting strung behind. They don't have the bonus carrier. So it's 7-5. That'll be a hit on the Japanese. We'll take another fleet and force the US back again. But at great cost, right? Phew. The Russians are going to do their thing. They're going to attempt to declare war on France. This is at -1. It succeeds. I don't know why these are here. Japan and Russia. Just put that there. They're not allied, but that's fine. But this war, what the hell? Japan and the U.S. Okay, this war will be Russia versus France, and Britain declares in on it. And that means France and Britain each get flags, which we will put in Trump location. Okay. Well, if we're going to be fighting with the French at this point, and that's guaranteed, we are going to try to propaganda. And we succeed. Another U.S. offensive. You know, if it works, right? We just keep plowing in. For the Japanese, we can throw more fleet in. No air support this time. +1 for the U.S. 7-5, the Japanese lose a fleet. We really can't allow the Allies to get the East China Sea. If they do, Japan itself is possibly, Tokyo is possibly going to be lost. That's why the entire fleet has dissolved there. A French tank upgrade. Does this help us? We don't have any French infantry. Why did I build it? I don't know. Maybe there's French infantry in here. A Russian offensive. Well, we're in total war. I think we're going in. We'll see what it does. We're going to spend the first of our offensives to launch an attack into Czechoslovakia. We don't actually have to bring everything in, but whatever. 3 dice because of air support versus 1 die. Russians are at +1. I'm sorry, at minus. The Germans, the Czechs are at +1. They roll a 7, not good. The Russian army falls back. See, the problem is we couldn't reach with all of our planes, which we kind of wanted to do. We can make an attack at +1, but we don't have as much air power. We'll keep going into Czechoslovakia. I think that's too important for us. That's a second shit. Russian is 3 dice to 1 die at +1. Or at -1. Okay, we get 2 to 1. We've destroyed the Civil War influence that the Germans were sitting on there. We get another cube, which is another Russian victory point. And now we're in a somewhat better position with more planes, but not necessarily, you know, we don't have the bonus for the extra attack. And this is an interesting question. Do we want to try to slip out and maybe cause problems to France? That sounds cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit the Germans. Yeah, we're still at war with them. And we will throw an air support into Germany, into Bavaria. And sent the tank in, right? Yeah. So we got 3 dice. Germans have 2 dice. Germans are a +1, I think. And that's it. 5 to 6. The Russians get foiled there and sent back home. Hey, it's an interesting idea. Another Russian offensive. Whew, I got to think about this one, because now we could do a +2 going into Berlin, and that might make sense. Do that. Okay, we're going to take both the armies out of here, and we're going to take Air Force out of both of these and go into Berlin here. Okay, so the air power is equivalent, except the Russians are a +2. 8 to 6, we do a hit on the Brits. Okay. I think we both have the same amount of air chits, and I think that's how air superiority is determined. It doesn't matter that those strategic bombers have more damage that they can take and aren't particularly being used for anything strategic. They're just extra hit points. Certainly that's how I thought it would be. The side with air superiority, 10.3, air superiority. More air units remaining. Yep. Okay. So we have the same number of tanks. We have the same number of planes. All that's in play here is +2 to the Russian die roll. 8 to 4, that's 2 hits. Now, luckily, the French don't have to lose Berlin this way. We'll take our 2 hits there, and that means the Russians fall back. And that was that. I don't think the gain of a temporary resource gave me a flag. All right, we've got someone, Italy or France, or English. This is an Italian piece. It doesn't really count. Italy is out of the game. The crisis marker, and I bet it's over. It indeed is. There are no special counters left at the end of the turn. There is a U.S. offensive, a Russian offensive, and a Japanese offensive. And crises and these guys. This moves forward. This is guaranteed to be the last turn of the game. And I gotta put that Italian piece back away.